it was almost like they used AI to like write a script,
beer
like
joke.
Write a league style episode of television with a lot of beer and poopy jokes in it.
Here you are, Brews Brothers, episode 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Brews Brothers. Brews Brothers went 8 episodes with only 1 season on Netflix. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called The Brothers Rodman, originally airing April 10th, 2020. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me as always, the boys, some of them, and in addition, Nick, Ferg, and Russ. No Joe or Gordo this week. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Yo.
hey.
So first and foremost, sorry Joe couldn't make it. They had like a local pop-up carnival in his area, and he went to do one of those. They have the things where you can like dip your hand in wax and like do it in like fun poses. They didn't regulate the temperature properly, and he got some burns on his hand, so he's at the doctor's right now just getting that addressed. He's okay. He'll probably be back next week, but just wanted to apologize for him. And Gordo just has some stomach issues.
I thought you were going to say he was still stuck in the wax.
That would have been really good.
No, it's always something with Joe. And he was just trying to enjoy a nice day at the carnival, and then unfortunately got all those burns.
His life is like a sitcom.
It's been very adventurous lately.
Yeah.
If you guys were listening at the top of the episode, for the second time ever, we have a guest. So Russ, a very old friend of ours. Russ, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone.
So we've done some 3-man episodes, but we thought this was a good opportunity to bring someone along, and then did like a little pivot because this was not the original show we were going to cover. But Russ, being a beer connoisseur and has a nice following, if you want to plug your Instagram.
Sure. I have a beer Instagram, if you're into that sort of thing, at A Beer Has No Name, like from Game of Thrones, except beer. Does anyone remember Game of Thrones? It's been a while.
That was a show. We can't cover it because it's not a sitcom, but
That was actually one of my favorite storylines in Game of Thrones.
It was great, and then it kind of paid off. It was one of the only storylines that actually paid off well.
Oh, when they all went to the brewery together, and we're like, oh, my beer is better.
I figured
The Hound.
it made sense to make the pivot, and maybe this would be the best opportunity to do Brews Brothers, because then when we talk about beer stuff, I have someone I can bounce back beer talk. Ferg, I know you're a big
What
beer
about
guy.
me? I'm a big beer guy.
Ferg went to a lot of breweries in Philly, so
We have dragged Ferg between you and I to so many breweries across the country.
he's more well traveled with brewery
Really,
visits
I
than
mean,
most
the
people.
list of breweries that he's attended is like
No
a
joke.
who's who that most people who are big fans of craft beer have not been able to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here we are. In fun fact, Russ, obviously an old friend of ours, when we first started this podcast, he had no interest in being part of it with us.
Okay. I took a nap after a shift at work, and I woke up and everyone started a podcast without me, but that's okay. 3 years later, I get to do an episode of this great TV show, so it all worked out.
Hey, I'm open to adding a 6th member.
We can't. That's a lot of people.
You know how many ties we'd have?
Brews Brothers, this came out, like I said, April 2020. So basically right when the world shut down. So it had in a way, the perfect opportunity for everyone to watch it, but this show did not catch on. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that we're going to go over.
It could have been Tiger King. Like, this could have been Tiger
This
King.
could have been Tiger King, yeah.
When this show first came out, I remember hearing about the show, and then obviously like big beer guy. So I was like, oh, there's a sitcom coming out about beer, and it has ties to the league and all this other stuff I like. Like, this is going to be phenomenal.
I had too many ties to the league, by the way. It's like they took Taco and they split him into 2 different characters. And I don't mean the 2 that are fucking. Those I count as one character. The food truck people. And then the fucking little assistant guy who's just too dumb to function is also
Chewy.
Taco.
Chewy.
Yeah.
Ferg's biggest pet peeve in sitcoms is the too dumb to function character.
Oh, I fucking hate Chewy.
He's like,
I thought Chewy, I actually thought he had a lot of really funny deliveries. I even though his character's made to be super dumb, I thought just some of his lines, his one-liners, the way he delivered them, I thought was pretty funny.
I don't think he was dumb as much as he was just like apathetic, you know? Like he just doesn't care.
No, he's dumb.
There's a scene where he asks, he's like, "There's more than one beer" or something. I was like,
That could be apathetic though, you know? He just doesn't care enough.
Swimming around the tank for his wallet. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, you want me to go get a keg? Like,
I don't know. He doesn't do it for me.
Just wanted to also remind everyone, go to s1e1pod.com. That's where you can find all our social medias. S1E1pod on Instagram and X. And also now, as very recently, actually by the time this episode comes out, not that recent, but we do have some merch now. You can go to s1e1pod.com. You'll find a link there to take you over to the store. We got a few shirts up. Ferg's wearing one of the tank tops now, as you can hear. So, go check those out. We got a few things up. As far as some of the ratings, IMDb has this as a 5.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, 40% with a 64% audience score. So not great.
I don't know if I can trust IMDb because IMDb also lists this as a comedy drama, and this is most certainly not a drama.
I don't know why. Yeah, you pointed out like Google too. If you look up the show on Google, it says drama.
Google says just drama. IMDb says comedy drama. So I'm sitting there, I'm expecting for like heavy stuff with like jokes, and I'm like, oh, that's like dark humor. No,
Yeah.
It's just a straight up comedy, and
It's dramatically
full on
bad.
sitcom. I'm not even gonna argue that it's not a sitcom. It's a full on sitcom. Like,
It has me nervous about other times we've talked about shows and we're like, oh, we can't do it. It says it's just whatever. And it's like, how many shows might have been sitcoms that were misproperly categorized on these sites that can't do this one.
Just assume everything's a sitcom, and then you won't have a problem.
life's a sitcom.
So this show is created by Greg Shafir. He wrote on a lot of shows, like he did writing for Mad About You, that 70s show. But his brother, Jeff, who's the executive producer of Brews Brothers, was the creator of The League and helped co-create Dave with Lil Dicky. And he wrote on a bunch of shows himself, Seinfeld being one of them.
Hey,
He is the man who created the Festivus poll.
wow.
Interesting.
Oh man, it's a pun on Blues Brothers.
Oh,
Yep.
Brews Brothers.
Come on.
That just hit me.
I didn't get that either. I'm like, why is it called Brews Brothers the whole
Come
time?
on, guys.
Literally.
I'm sorry, I never heard it out loud until you just said it. I was
It
only
wasn't
reading it.
creative.
I
Oh,
know.
like-
That's why
no, it
I
wasn't.
laughed at myself.
So this is also one of those shows that it came and went. We've talked about Netflix sitcoms a million times over, but this is like another one that was a one and done, one season. You try to look up any like extra info. There's really not a lot out there on this as far as like fun information. It just, the show existed. It didn't work out and it went away.
Listen, we'll get into it, but I don't think this show belongs with the other Netflix one and dones. It's just like we've gone over a good amount of Netflix shows that didn't do well, or maybe only went 2 seasons and didn't really deserve that second season, and they're just really bad. But this one didn't even make it into a second season, and I like I said, we'll get into it. It's not a perfect show, but I don't think it's that bad that it can.
No, and a lot of the other like Netflix sitcoms that we've covered are a lot of 3-camera style. Pretty Smart, The Big Show, The Crew.
I was just
all
going to
those.
say, did The Big Show get a second season?
No, it did have a Christmas special that came out after the first season.
Nice.
But this is a single camera shoot, so it's again, it's coming from that family of The League and stuff like that. It has that vibe. It's meant to feel that way. It just doesn't quite hit. But yeah, it's not. Listen, when you compare it to all those shows, it's not the worst of the bunch. It just maybe my expectations were pretty high going into it, just knowing the pieces that were involved.
That's also a very low bar, those shows.
Right.
Yeah.
But we'll get into a lot of this as we kind of talk about the episode. So it starts with some narration, and you get Will, who's the main character, doing the narration as he's pouring a beer, and you hear him say, "A wise man once said that beer makes you feel the way you ought to feel without beer." That is a real quote. That's by Henry Lawson. He was a poet. He was born in 1867, so beer has been loved and renowned for all eternity. But that's definitely a quote that I've definitely used as a caption on some dumb beer thing I've posted at some point in my life.
Sounds about right.
Quotes about beer, and that one's gonna pop up.
The Simpsons one is always my favorite quote about beer. That's an all-timer.
Why am I drawing a blank? What's the Simpsons quote?
It's like beer, the problem, the solution and cause of all of life's problems, or something like that. But that's a great one.
And in honor, I am drinking a beer, I think, for the first time ever in all the times we've recorded. So over 160 episodes in, and I'm enjoying a beer for the first time in honor of the show.
And my first episode, and I'm enjoying one too.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking from a Stein. It's definitely beer. Definitely not Pepsi.
So we, from the quote, we move out. It's like we get that wide shot. Now we actually see him, and he's behind the bar, and he's serving to like one of the patrons at the bar. And the guy's like, "Oh, couldn't agree more." And then he's like, "Oh, I'm actually here looking for the accommodator." And he's like, "We don't have anything by that name." He's like, "No, it's not a beer. It's a dildo." He's like, "Why does everyone think this is a porn shop?" And he's like, "Well," he points to the sign, and it's like he spells the place is called Extreme Rodman's, and it's with 3 X's. And he's very aloof to the fact that this comes off porny.
Yeah, because why would that come off porny? Like,
Yeah.
just like the episode kicks off on the like, oh, everyone's so dumb that we don't know what's going on around us kind of mentality, and it rides it like the whole time.
That's straight out of the league. I knew this was like the same writers and crew without being told, because it's just so obvious with the way everything is.
Unfortunately, but with that later league vibe where they had already exhausted most of their best ideas.
Like the last season of the league where everyone's like, ooh, I'm still watching this.
It's that league writing where like somebody does something stupid and everyone accepts it, and that's just the world.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
This is, again, we're talking about a lot of stuff before we even really get into much, but this is one of those shows, too, we've said where, you know, usually you're supposed to wait a few seasons before the characters start to get flanderized, but they all start this way.
Every single one of them.
Every one of them is like too extreme to be realistic.
Yeah.
ironically, Kevin is the most normal one.
Yeah.
He's always going to be Kevin to me.
Has he gone through his controversy already at this point? I think so, right?
Yeah.
Steve
Yeah.
Ramsey, oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This is only a few years ago in the show, but
Yeah, he went through it in 2001 when the planes hit the tower.
filling in for
Hey.
Joe.
A 9/11 joke without Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that before, but listen, we'll talk. Actually, let's hold off because he's going to be in the episode way later, and then we'll bring it up. But yeah, so Will's going over some of the names of the beers that he has, and you know, with his last name being Rodman, it's like the Rod Guzzler and stuff like that. It's all, I don't know. Listen, I like really juvenile humor at times, but to me, like right off the bat, I'm like, this is a little too childish.
It's childish, yeah, I was going to say.
I think the term you're looking for is low-hanging fruit.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
And it's just not like, it's not believable that he didn't understand that until this one guy
Yeah.
shows up and
He
points
wrote
it
the
out to
sign,
him.
he brewed the beer, he sold it to people, and then
Yeah.
today he goes, oh, wait, that sounds wicked sexual.
Yeah, it almost
no.
would have worked out better if like maybe he was ignorant towards it when he first did it, but by the time this guy's having the conversation with him, he's already like dejected and like 'cause he's
Yeah.
heard it 1,000 times.
I know,
by now.
all right, yeah, you know. Or have a name that's not as obviously weird.
Just roll with it. Go extra. That's what I would do.
Yeah, or just start selling dildos too. Like, it's not a bad business plan. It might
Lean
work.
into it, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of any. I've been to a good amount of breweries. I can't think of any that also sell dildos. So maybe there is a market.
Untapped market. There it is.
Oh, Untapped. That's what we bear people use.
That's
That's true.
Nice.
Good call. We get from there. We don't have a full on intro. We have just one of those little quick cut scenes, which is fine for the show. No intro, just kind of like that little quick jingle when you see a beer that has like a custom label with the name of the show.
Brews Brothers.
I'm fine with it for the show. Yes, like Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think this needs a full on intro.
The thing is, the league had a good one.
Well, it's just that jingle that da 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 da.
Yeah.
But that's catchy.
It's catchy, but they don't have like a full on intro. It's just that's like 10 seconds long tops.
That felt like an intro that was in a pilot, not like it got picked up for a whole season. They should have made an intro if you're going to have that, you know?
Well, we've had this conversation in the past with some Netflix shows, and I guess to reiterate, the thing that happens with a lot of these shows too is it's not like the sitcoms we grew up with. This show is made to be a whole show and just airs at once. Like the whole season, all 8 episodes come out the same day. So it doesn't have that thing that other shows had where after an episode or two, we're going to tweak the intro or we're going to change this character a little bit because people aren't really vibing with them. It's done. It's already out. And that's kind of the problem with binge watching the whole thing at once. Everything releases. Like, there's no time to make adjustments. This is the show. This is what it is. And I think that's why we see so many of these one and done shows, because they don't have enough time to like grow and listen to the audience because the whole season's out. Someone just decides they don't like it, and that's it. There's too many episodes to like just hate watch it and tough through it, hoping it gets better.
Well, it's because they shoot them like movies now, so it's a
Yeah.
quick shoot, and they do all 8 episodes. Same locations are all used for all 8 episodes, and you can do it in a quarter of the time they used to do it in.
But don't you think that, I don't know, I don't want to talk out of my ass here because, like, I obviously don't know how a show is made. But when you think about a show being made that way, like Russ is saying, like, it's all in the same area. There's not a lot of footwork as far as, like, where it is. Maybe put a little more effort into what it is.
But I think the problem is, it's not even just that. It's, yes, I agree. But I think when we look at a lot of the problems we're seeing with these shows that are shot that way, there's just no time to pivot because you don't see it. Sometimes you don't, see the forest through the trees, you know what I mean? That situation. Yeah. So they're making like, oh, this show's funny. We're having a good time. And then it's done. And people go, this show sucks. And it's like, what can you do?
Yes,
it's done.
It's always easier after the fact.
And then
right?
even like, this wasn't even like something from way back. I mean, you're talking even 10, 15 years ago. Shows were recording episodes as they were being released to television. So like literally there'll be a point where episode 4 is coming out and they're just now shooting episode 7, when people aren't liking things, there's time to adjust and change, and this format just doesn't aid to it, but it's so much cheaper and easier to do it the way they do it now that all the networks follow suit now, that even the weekly episodic ones are kind of filmed all at once too now. So, I mean, it just is what it is. In the next scene, we see Will, and he's showing that pervy customer who wanted the dildos. He's giving him like a tour around the brewery, and you see him like pouring him some beer out of the tank. And I was like, wow, like for this struggling brewery, this place is gigantic, and they have like.
I was going to talk about that too.
Yeah, it's like all state of the art equipment. Like this is not. I don't know if like in our like we know too much about it to know that like this is not conducive to the story they're telling.
No, this is not a hungry artist. Like this is like
no. If they made it like look like how it should look for a brewery that is that like dead in the water with no customers, there would be 1/8 the size brewing equipment. Like it's so the space is huge. They have all these tanks. Like that's $1 million brewery.
Yeah.
Like, how are they struggling? Also, that place is awesome. Other than the dartboard that can kill you.
We'll see that in a minute. Yeah, that's I don't think they did a great job painting a picture as to why they're having struggles, because all the pieces seem to be in line. It sounds like Will knows what he's doing about making beer. Everyone seems to like the beer. The space looks nice. It's like, so why is it failing? They didn't really
clean.
Get into it. Yeah, none of that was explained. As he's walking around, the customer's like, yeah, this is great. Like, I think if you just added some dildos and fetish wear, like you advertise, this place would run great.
Yeah, we covered it though. We agree. They should have.
Yeah, we do agree. And this is also when we find out Will is Wilhelm or whatever, because he changed his name.
It's made me hate this character so much.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Wilhelm.
I don't want to tip my hat, but I hate almost every character.
Also, I know Joe has discussed that this character kind of looks like me, but he also kind of looks like a lost Savage brother.
He does.
A little bit of that.
I can see that more than anything.
I don't know. Once it was pointed out, I sent you guys a picture in our chat. It was like, there's some moments where he looks real close to you.
It's like if I was tall.
Oh, it could have been.
While that's happening, and he's explaining the origin of why he changed his name to Wilhelm, and I'm not going to call him that at all this episode. He will remain Will, because no one really calls him that anyway. It's like everyone calls him Will.
Funner to say, though, Wilhelm.
Well, it's not even Wilhelm. Like, Wilhelm is
it's
a different thing, but he's like Wilhelm.
Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
And while he's explaining this is when the first time we see Chewie, and he's rolling a keg in the background that he's going to be taking to his buddies who he plays like soccer with.
Wearing a beautiful Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, as I'm watching the episode, I realize that I own the exact same Hawaiian shirt that he's wearing. So I've altered my attire. For those of you listening, you'll see clips, I guess, later in the week. The exact same outfit he has on. I got the backwards black snapback. I got the gray t-shirt.
You should have done the goatee.
The goatee would have really brought it home.
Do you have the same pants? Do you have the same pants?
If only I wasn't so low on time, I could have shaved this beard off. But yeah, in meeting Chewie, he is kind of the prototypical dumb character.
Dumber than all the other characters.
Oh,
yes.
I can't stand him. Is he from something else we covered? He looked familiar to me.
I did think he was pretty funny, though. I thought his character needed work on a writing sense, but I thought his portrayal of it.
Yeah, he definitely did the best he could with what.
I think he did a pretty good job with his portrayal of the character.
Yeah, it's the writing. All his jokes were garbage, but like
Yeah,
his delivery of those bad jokes was really good.
Yeah, I don't blame him. It's like you guys said, the writing.
Unless he wrote the jokes, then I blame him.
That piece of shit.
But yeah, I don't know. Again, like yes, he was super dumb, but I did think that he had a charm about him. So I'll give the actor credit.
That's more me hating that trope, that style of character. It's not him. I'm not complaining about the actor. Good job, fella.
Yeah, but the situation
job,
he's
big
in
guy.
is, I guess Will lets the employees take as much beer as they want, which a lot of breweries let you take some beer, but usually not by the keg. So he definitely takes advantage of the situation, and he's taking it out to, like, have a party with his soccer friends.
No, it's a tasting experiment.
Yes, as he explained it. So right as Chewie's walking out is when the girl Sarah walks in. She's the only other person we know that works here. And she intercepts that keg from Chewie and informs the customer that his car's being towed. So he like sprints out of there, and she's yelling at Will for giving all this beer away to Chewie all the time.
Like when I said earlier, it's like I hate almost every character. She's the almost. I don't hate her.
She's the
I like
only
her.
one.
She's not bad. She can be goofy at times. She's not that. She's not like a total Flanderization of like a human being yet.
Yeah, she's a functioning human being.
She feels like a normal person that would be in the real world, maybe.
Her role in the show seems to be that she's the anchor of the group. She's the one like running the brewery, even though Will owns it. She's like the manager and the one who's actually trying to keep this place afloat.
Yeah. It's like the straight man to the comedy, but like the problem is she's the only straight man and everyone else is the, crazy side character.
So now we're in a situation where it's just her and Will talking, and she's trying to, again, just, hey, what are you doing? Like, we need to get some stuff going here. And he's just goofing around. He puts like those like suds on his face for some reason. And he's like, do I look like LeBron or Abe Lincoln? I didn't get why that even happened. There was like no context to it. But yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those, I don't know if we're trying to convey that he's just not someone who takes the business side of things serious, so he doesn't care, but I don't know.
Also, this is kind of, unless I missed something, I would have really missed it too, because this is the second time I've seen this episode, but they're flirty, and then that's it with them, right? They don't ever really touch on that again? Or do they?
So not to jump ahead, and I don't remember everything from this series, but I did watch it through once when it first came out. Isn't it revealed that she's pretty young?
I don't know.
I believe that was the hurdle.
The only thing is I just remember this scene, them being super flirty, and then they never touched it again in this episode. Like, they didn't lean one way or the other with the two of them, and I thought it was a weird amount of that to have in a show.
Yeah, Nick's right, because when he does the beard foam joke, and she actually starts laughing and joking around with him instead of being serious like she is most of the time.
Yeah, but she's also on him a bit too, because I guess part of the problem, maybe why he was goofing around, is he drinks excessively during his work time. And she's even accusing him because the dog gets too drunk as well. And that's when we meet Friar Lucas for the first time.
Friar Lucas.
The drunk dog got me.
I love that.
I did like that it had like that little tapped beer barrel, and it knew how to like tap its own beer into the bowl. That was funny.
That was adorable.
It was the best part of the whole episode.
I wish he had one of those barrels under his chin, like those dogs that save people skiing in cartoons.
He's a Saint
Yeah,
Bernard,
that would have
right?
been like the obvious move, huh?
Yeah.
So they're doing a little bit of a walk and talk, and that's when we end up at a different part of the brewery. And again, you can see there's a good amount of people at the brewery at this point. There's people sitting and drinking, there's people playing darts, although we find out that the dartboard was moved, so now people are throwing darts basically at an area that's more likely going to hit other customers than not.
People's legs are right there.
Yeah. I was never a great dart player myself. And the amount of times I've like completely missed the board in what limited times I've played.
I've played a lot of darts, and even after you've played a lot of darts, you can still miss the board. Like,
There's
it's
always
not
the
impossible.
one-off,
Yeah.
like, where you completely miss, yeah.
Especially at a brewery.
Exactly, yeah. If you're drinking, it's a different story.
I always found that funny that dartboards are at breweries and bars. Like, it's like the one place where you shouldn't be throwing sharp things.
Yeah.
We find out the reason that the dartboard was moved to that wall, though, is because of his latest genius promotional idea, which was the take a growler, leave a growler thing. Even when he was trying to explain it, and I know the conflict that happens with it later is completely unrelated, but the way it sounded to me, even promotion-wise, like, oh, you take one and then you come back and you leave the empty and you grab a new one for free. It's like, so is this unlimited beer? Is that how this was supposed to work?
I didn't understand.
It makes no sense. You know what else doesn't make any sense? He leaves a bunch of full growlers in room temperature, like out.
It's weird because this show, and again, I don't know, I think the show is somewhat made for, obviously there's been a gigantic expansion in like craft beer fandom over the last decade or so. So I think they're trying to cater into that fan base. So as you watch the show, they use a lot of proper terminology and they're explaining a lot of things that are correct. But then they do so many things that are illogical or don't make sense, where it's like the writers like just read the spark notes real quick and just injected some beer stuff. But
well, the annoying thing is it feels like someone who drinks beer and goes to a lot of breweries made this show. But then I feel like for the point of a bad joke, they leave stuff like that in where it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that too.
Jay, was it you who was with me when I blew up the growler at Trinity?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those stainless steel growlers I got at Trinity in Providence. So they put it in the bucket to fill it up. Like, they put the growler in a bucket because it overflows, and then she didn't like dry it off. So I went to dry it off at the bar, and I hit like the latch that corks the top of it, and it exploded. Like, it painted the ceiling, and everybody to like the left and right of us. She was like, yeah, you're not supposed to open it. I was like, yeah, I wasn't trying to open it. I was trying to dry it.
Even then, when you open a growler, is it supposed to explode like that?
No, it should not. It's not with that amount. You put a little bit of CO2 in it usually, but...
How much CO2 did she throw in there? Jeez.
Too much, apparently.
Also, side note to that story, Nick had just got the car that he has, and he picks me up and he's like, oh, let's grab lunch. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, oh, I'm not telling you where we're going. And he drove me to Providence and did not tell me we were going to Providence.
I really wanted... All right, but I forgot that you had never had their fish and chips before. So I was like, all right, let's get the fish and chips, right? And then
you're missing some key context for our listeners that don't know where Providence is from Boston. That's like 2.5 hours away.
It's not 2.5 hours.
Providence? It's an hour and a half.
More than an hour, especially with traffic.
About an hour and a half usually, like if you leave it a normal time. But yeah, it's not what I was. I forget too. I don't think I had anything to be like right away, but there was like I had to watch the clock at some point because I had something to do at night, and I'm like I wasn't prepared for lunch to be so far away.
I intentionally didn't tell him, and then like we're like halfway there. I'm like, "Do you care to ask where we're going?" He goes, "I've made it this far." Like, might as well like.
Yeah, I love a good Providence trip. I just was unprepared.
But it was, and then he ended up not even getting the fish and chips. Like that was my intention, was to get the fish and chips. I didn't have
that same mental connection to them.
I know, I didn't realize that.
What'd you get?
I forget, but I do remember whatever I got wasn't that great. And I've ate there before. I do, like, they have good food there, but it was just...
Should have got the fish and chips. It's fantastic.
Now I know. Going back to this, he's explaining the take a growler, leave a growler thing, and... he's saying how it's going to catch on like wildfire, and then you get I think it already has, and we look over and we cut to outside where they run out, and there's just a homeless guy taking a shit in one.
This is, okay, I'm a poop and fart humor guy for sure, but this was poorly executed and went on for too long.
So, super forced. Yeah. And I think, again, a lot of the crude jokes in here, I think they're taking like a page out of the league's notebook. but the execution isn't great. And for the sake of, we like the idea of a homeless guy taking a shit, but the execution of, again, if we're going to talk beer and get into it, like a growler, the top of a growler.
Even like a wide mouth growler.
Yeah.
Also, for the joke's sake, they act like the term growler is a super common term for taking a shit, and it's not. Like
everybody knows.
Everybody
He's
knows
not
growler
pooping
means
in the
dookie.
growler.
No, he's leaving a growler, which is what he calls poop.
Taking a dump is called a growler.
I think he's pooping into the growler.
No,
No,
because there's
no.
shit in front of him, and that's the leave the growler.
Yeah, he took a shit on the ground a foot in front of him earlier. He goes, that was when I left a growler.
Oh, my brain. Yeah, I thought he was shitting into the growler.
Me too.
Well, listen, it was not a great joke, so you can be confused. But yes, no, he's just pooping on the sidewalk.
Well, now it's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, that was a super clever thing they did. No.
The thing is, I know Gordo watched it and was just laughing his ass off by
Gordo
himself.
would love that.
If he ever watches it.
True.
He doesn't drink, so.
The homeless guy played by Toby Huss, you guys might know him or his voice. He was from King of the Hill. He does the voices. He does a bunch of voices, but most notably Cotton Hill and Khan.
And R.I.P. Isn't he dead?
Dale just died.
Oh, I'm thinking the character of Cotton is dead. I think in the new show they're putting out. Never mind.
Rest in peace.
You know, the only reason I checked too, I assumed it would be a cartoon. I was like, this guy definitely does voice work, because you can just tell by the voice he's doing in this whole scene, which makes no sense. Like, whatever voice he's doing doesn't aid itself. He's trying to sound like uber intelligent.
He looks familiar, though. I'm surprised he's a voice actor.
Yeah, it was the voice that got him. He's done a lot of like normal acting roles too, but
He's
there was
also
nothing
kind of
that,
just like Rickety Cricket-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing that flagged me as like, oh, he's in this too, but that was his best credit, because he did it the majority of episodes of King of the
You
Hill.
don't know him from our one failed episode of Pete and Pete?
He was in that?
He was. This is me going off the top of my head. I'd see he was in Pete and Pete, but I want to say he was the bus driver.
I don't have that kind of memory, so I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure.
Oh my God, I was way off. He was Artie.
He's Artie?
No.
No way.
Yes.
Okay,
Really?
well, that's where I guess you would know him from. Oh my, I can't believe I didn't know that was Artie.
Holy
that
shit,
didn't
it
help.
is him, yeah.
Wow.
I felt
Well,
dumb.
never mind. You would best know him as being Artie.
The strongest man in the world.
Not for nothing. When you look him up and it says known for, it's not even in like the top 4 things that comes up.
It's number 3 for me.
Android, Jay. You have an Android.
I'm looking on my computer. It's a Hewlett Packard.
The known for is by your algorithm. Like, it's going to show you things that it thinks you know.
Well, I've definitely, because of our show, Googled Pete and Pete, and I've never Googled Halt and Catch Fire. So
Jay's algorithm, no one needs to see that, so.
Oh, he was also in Down Periscope.
you're welcome to all of you that I share videos with on Instagram. But yeah, this whole scene was really weird. It did last a long time. He shit multiple times. There was a point where Will steps in the shit.
Says he ran out of toilet paper because there's no more printed media or something.
Try wiping your ass with a Kindle.
Will's now going to offer his shoes to him because he doesn't want them anymore because there's human doo-doo all over it.
I respect the fact that when he gave him the shoes, it did have poop on the bottom. They just didn't give him clean
you could see
shoes.
it.
Again, you draw those comparisons to the league and you can tell that they're going for a certain style of humor, cutting to things a certain way, but it's just not, it's not there. And the jokes aren't landing the
It's
same.
equal to Kevin like shitting in the street yelling, "Yo, Bagoya!" Like,
Which is like funny the first
That's
time.
what I thought about too. The Yobagoya was like the most overused, dumb fucking term they ever used.
it's gonna sound like we hate the league. We love the league, by the
We
way.
love the league.
The last season of the league was absolutely atrocious.
But when you look back at the league, they're all so unbelievably hateable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's fine by me. I don't need every character to be like an
No.
awesome dude.
I get that because you have people like Seinfeld, for instance. None of them
Always
are really
Sunny.
likable either. Oh yeah, exactly. But I don't know. The league feels different. They seem more douchey. I don't know.
They're not like that for a season, though. Most of them are pretty grounded in season 1, and then they just become terrible people as the show
Yeah.
goes on.
Because they run out of storylines, so they're like, oh, he'll do this horrible thing.
The League was one of my favorite shows when it was like airing live, but I feel like it fizzled out so quickly. But like I don't really rewatch it. It just like it just didn't. You weren't left with a good taste in your mouth by the time it was over. So like you don't even think to kind of go back anymore.
Well, you got to remember too that the League was based on like that year's draft picks and fantasy teams.
That
and
happens
stuff.
a lot too.
If you go back, people now would probably not even remember half of the people that they're talking about, making jokes about on their teams.
It could be a bit time sensitive, especially as it went on and they started adding a lot of cameos from players and stuff. Yeah.
That's what ruined the show for me, because the first couple seasons, you don't see any stars, and all of a sudden they're running into stars every fucking episode. Like,
look, it's Marshawn Lynch.
I think in the first episode they talk about when the Maurice Jones-Drew gets brought up. I'm like, wow, that's a name.
After this whole homeless guy fiasco, they're heading back on to the main area of the bar, and you hear like a guy talking who's sampling one of the beers and he's giving his notes. And it's that very pretentious. I mean, these guys do exist in real life in the beer world too,
There's
but
a lot of them.
looking at two of them right now.
I'll tell you, listen, I mean, and Russ could tell you the same. I love beer stuff. I've been to countless breweries. I've tried thousands and thousands of beers. Like, I love it. I really do. But I do feel like there are a lot of people in the beer world who try to be too smart, and they overthink it, and there's like this need to prove yourself when there's like a group of people who all like the same thing. Like you almost need to prove you belong. So now you overdo it and you have to like know too much about it. You could just enjoy it.
That's kind of like, I have the same issue that they kind of talked about in this show, is like the overabundance of IPAs. And like IPAs, I think, are inherently a little more complex than the other types of beers, and that's why people make so many of them.
It's funny.
No,
Well,
it's like if people get super into beer, they'll start talking about like tasting notes and this and that, and you get way more complex stuff with like saisons and like these older German style beers and stuff, and people get super into it, and then they just like, I mean, the tasting note talk it could go like crazy.
Is there a lot of tasting note talk at the pub, at the bar rooms there?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's frustrating to listen to, because half these people are talking out of their ass when they're like, oh my God, you get a little bit of lavender on the end and some honey notes. And
the thing that gets me at the end of the day, right? And there is like, it's like wine too. Like you can just enjoy wine, but there are people who that's their living. You know what I mean? Like they have to know it at a whole different level than you.
And I would make fun of them too. So like there's no,
like for me, and this happens with a lot of beer people, is it gets like any of these hobbies. There's people who get so pretentious about it that you can't just like what you like anymore. Like as far as like IPAs and stuff go, like a lot of the beer people have like evolved to the point where it's like almost lowbrow to like IPAs now. It's like, I just like how they taste. I don't care if it's not as hard to make as this beer or this has complexities that I don't understand. It's just a taste thing. Anything you eat or drink should be because you enjoy how it tastes. I don't need it to taste complicated. I just want to enjoy it.
I always aim for a stout, but if it has a fun name, I'll take a chance usually.
I'll tell you, a label will get me too sometimes. Like, oh, this is a really cool label. Beer ends up sucking, but whatever. There's a cool label.
Yeah, I bought that $100 Nightmare on Elm Street one when we were in Miami.
oh yeah.
Did you drink it?
It was delicious.
Yeah, we drank it. It's like an on-site bottle, so we had to drink it there. Fun.
Oh, interesting.
You didn't go with us?
No, Nick didn't come out that day.
That's a big Nick vacation tip. Nick loves to go on vacations.
And have a staycation.
Yeah.
I got fucking food or sun poisoning, one thing. I was crapping my brains out that whole morning.
Oh, so you were there, because when you left, it was after we left that place.
No, I
No,
don't think
that was
so.
someone else. But the gist of what happened was our friend and guest today, Russell, got married a couple years back, and we went to Miami for his bachelor party. So we went to a brewery for his bachelor party, and then me too. I'm the king of getting carried away in the moment.
The FOMO. I have to try every bottle here.
This particular brewery had a lot of bottles that were for sale at a elevated price. It's their own beer too, but elevated prices for a lot of these bottles. And I just kept buying them, and I was able to get Ferg to buy one of them because of his love of Freddy Krueger.
And then we ran into Maurice Jones-Drew. It was crazy.
But yeah, as far as this show goes, we're hearing the guy at the bar, and he's talking about all these notes of citrus and possibly clementines and all these things. And you're going, oh, what's this guy?
That sounds delicious.
And, yeah, no, it did. It sounded great. But we find out that this the guy at the bar is Will's brother, Adam. And the two of them are not on the best of terms. Because he even makes a remark like, you know, how before we know the reveal that it's his brother, he's like, you know, if the brewmeister remembered that he was making a beer, not a smoothie, you might have had something here. Unfortunately, the beer, much like the brewmaster himself, smells like, as he would say, Scheiße.
Doesn't this guy kind of remind you of
Seth from the OC?
Adam Brody? Yes.
He even wears the vest. And I was going to ask you guys, do you think he's named after Adam Brody because he dresses like Seth? And
I didn't pull
like
that
him.
connection. It's funny.
Looks just like him. Also kind of looks like Joe Kelly, the Red Sox pitcher. Like the two of them ran into each other really fast.
During the embrace of the two brothers, and we can already tell by Adam's comments that the two of them are not like the closest, but when he goes to bring it in, Will just swings and decks him right in the face, which felt a little extreme.
Well, we don't know what transpired before, you know.
But in the moment, I'm like, huh?
And the more you get to know him, you can see how justifiable it might have been.
He's
right?
a very punchable person, but I will say, even when we find out the character and we find out the backstory of the two, I don't think the punch in the face was necessarily justified here.
He sucks, but at least he's supposed to suck. So I tolerate his character. What I don't tolerate is how he acts, and they keep him around. They're not like, get the fuck out of here. You're ruining everything. You're ruining my business.
They kind of touch on it, though, in the episode. They do touch on it a little bit. We'll get to it, but...
That's when he's gotten way too far at that point when they finally touch on it.
In the same vein, though, Will also sucks. Like, he's a less abrasive, but he also, like, he's not great at running a business, won't listen to people when they tell him he's not running a business. Like,
He's a nice fella, though.
No, I think he has some pretty unredeemable qualities himself, which doesn't is never great when you don't have someone you can like in the episode. But
Oh, Wilhelm?
Wilhelm?
they after the punch, the rest of the staff kind of walks to the back, almost Will's office like area in the back area, and you know they're like, "Oh, we didn't know you had a brother." And he's like, "Yeah, I haven't seen Oxy in a long time." It's like, "Oh, that's a cute nickname." He's like, "No, it's short for oxidation because oxidation destroys beer and Adam destroys everything."
that was so stupid.
It was stupid, but it is true. Oxidation does ruin beer.
It's true. It's factual.
I've had some oxidized beers. They taste very weird.
Is that like skunked?
Yeah. It's like if a can has a little hole in it and like air seeps in, it turns the beer all like brown and it tastes really weird.
Oh, see, when that happened to me, it just ruined my luggage.
So we get the flashback scene, and this is where their history is explained a little bit. And we find out that the two of them were adopted when they were young, and they show a scene of them like in the barn together, and that's when Adam had Will
Yakima
try his
Valley.
first beer. Yes, it was that. I didn't look it up. Is it true that that's where 70% of American hops are grown?
75%, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's where Will tries beer for the first time, and he hates it. They're kids. Like, I don't know. They were probably, what, 8 and 10 looking-ish in this flashback scene?
Yes. Brewing beer in a barn.
Yeah.
It's
Because
weird.
after trying beer and not liking it, his instant reaction, instead of going, I don't like beer, is, I can improve this. So now we see the two of them, like, collaborating and brewing beers together in the barn.
They made a cool ship out of a pool, a kid's pool. Ugh.
And their brewing together got to a point where they actually entered a competition. And this is the big fallout, which was like, they went to enter the competition and it was supposed to be Adam's beer, and Will didn't have confidence in it, so he switched it with his beer, and then they ended up winning. But now Adam knows that it was Will's beer that won, and he was pissed, and he like throws him into a table, and like stuff goes everywhere.
They knocked some random guy over.
So I'll say, when you, again, talking about Will's character, that was a shitty move on Will's part. Will assumed that Adam's beer, like, yes, it's true, Will won, but Adam may have won if it was his beer. We'll never know.
We're to believe that Adam is the better beer brewer of the two. So I don't know why they keep doing that. They do that later on, too. And
If he's the better brewer, why does he keep getting the idea to switch the beer so that it wins? I don't get it.
It's in his head that he know, but they both believe that they're the better of the two, you know? So in Will's mind, he makes better beer. So in this case, and they won, so it's validated in his mind. But again, Adam's beer wasn't tested, so who knows?
Why isn't the solution enter the contest separately and each put your beer in?
Well, these shows don't. Yeah, there's not a lot of thought and logic that goes into. They're trying to give you a quick backstory.
I know, I'm
and
thinking too hard about something stupid. As usual.
That's what we do. But yeah, and the idea of like being estranged for years over the bait and switch and the competition that they won is like
the stupidest
not
thing ever.
enough.
Yeah.
And it's not enough that when you see him years later, you punch him in the face because you're the one who did the thing.
That didn't even click to me. He's the one who fucked him over and he punched him in the face.
Yeah. He's mad because Adam was mad when they won, when he found out that Will switched on him. So because Adam caused a scene after, he's the villain apparently, but Will's the one who did something. So if you're going to go by any type of logic, it just doesn't make sense.
Correct.
It would have made a lot more sense if they just switched the roles, that Adam was just the one that did it. And wow, that's really bad writing.
But it would have been like, oh, he brews the better beer, which they want you to think Adam is the better brewer.
Well, that's the thing, because when it flashes back to like modern day again, and he's done telling the story, Sarah's saying to him like, well, whatever you think about your brother, if he makes amazing beer, why not give him a shot? And I'm like, when did we establish that he wants to work there? That didn't come up at all.
Also, they've already established that his beer is already good. The problem isn't that they have bad beer.
Yeah.
So it's
Sure. But I mean, if they're struggling I mean, the struggling is pretty much with the business side of things, but
So you're going to bring in a guy who like pushes away business every chance he gets, who is a okay brewer. It makes no sense.
that aside, there was no mention at any point that Adam wanted to work there that we saw. We just see the character.
Well, it's up to this point though. Later on, they talk about how
Sure.
Sarah and
But
Adam
why is
were
this
in cahoots.
conversation when it's announced this way? Like, come on, you got to give him a shot. This is the first time you even hear that he might want to work there.
That's an editing problem. They might have shot it in a different order.
He didn't even say no yet. She's saying, "Hey, come on, give him a shot." He didn't even say no to the idea. It never came up even behind the scenes.
they already gave him a shot right in the snout.
They already got him one in the eye. Because the business is having a hard time, I guess Will's like, all right, I guess we'll give him a shot. Because that was the thing.
Not to play better writer, but it should have been they're struggling with business and he has money from being successful.
Money or like a business prowess that he can bring. Might I also add, I wanted to bring this up, and before we get too far past it, the huge brewery that they clearly run with like 2 people, that would be a team of 25 people running that brewery with all those tanks and all the work that has to go into that.
I beg to differ. They show him making beer there, all right? All by himself.
They made beer just fine.
Sprinkles some hops in there, hits a button, and it's good the next day. They're ready to go.
That's it. He goes in the mash tun a little bit, but yeah.
So Will tells Adam, like, hey, we've been talking about it, and we're going to offer you the job if you can follow these conditions. And as soon as he hears it, Adam's already taken over. He's like, we got to get rid of this. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to get rid of those chairs. This is the vibe I want. And this is too lowbrow. So already these two aren't going to mesh together.
This is where I'm like, there's the door. Fuck you. Like, I'm getting angry just talking about it again.
There's like a little bit of a dialogue back and forth where him and Chewie are kind of going back and forth. He's like, you work here? He's like, yes. And like, they're doing this whole thing. Which, at this point, to me, watching the scene, I was like, this is fake Dennis and fake Charlie. Like, I felt like they ripped right from Always Sunny with this like type of dialogue and the way the two of them were acting.
I didn't get that from that. I was, again, just fuming about him being that dumb, that he doesn't know he fucking works there. Why doesn't he know he works there?
Because he's dumb.
He's dumb. He's so dumb he doesn't realize he works there, apparently, yeah.
Stupid joke. That was like so over the top and not funny.
So there's a point where Adam's telling Sarah, like, oh, something about you I like. Pull your hair back. And for whatever reason, she's like, okay. And this is just to reveal that she has like
creepy.
a disgusting, like blown up cauliflower ear, but it doesn't look until she corrects him and says that it's cauliflower, it just looked infected. It was like red and puffy. Yeah.
Well, that's what cauliflower looks like. It looks infected.
Her reaction to this is contradictory to her character because she's like, a strong, like, fuck you, don't tell me what to do type of person. And then this guy's like, you should pull back your hair. And she's like, okay. Like, she doesn't even like this guy either, right? Like, but she still is like, okay, just to wedge the ear thing. I don't know.
They want to show you the ear, but they don't know how to get there. And it could have just been...
She could have just pulled her hair back, and he responded.
Yeah.
It could have been, like, hot, and she could have went to tie it up, and they're like, ew. Like,
You know what you do? You do the foam joke, only she gets it in her hair. Oh, he got foam in my hair. Oh, what's wrong with your weird ear?
Yeah.
Boom.
And this is to reveal that she used to be an MMA fighter who got injured. So now she runs the brewery. Her and Chewy exit. Now he gets just the two brothers. And a couple customers walk in. And this is another familiar thing if you're at a brewery enough with people who don't go to breweries. But then also one of those things that I've seen it a million times. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Someone walks into a brewery and asks for like a beer that's a commercial beer and not something that's made by that particular brewery because they don't quite understand where they're at. So this girl walks in and she's trying to order a Stella. Will's trying to just be like, hey, we make our own beers. Like, I can try to get you something that I think you'd like if that's what you drink. But then Adam steps in and now he's just attacking her for even liking Stella and chases them out of here.
He spits on the ground and tells her to lap that up.
But do you find it interesting how many people go to breweries and don't know what breweries are?
no, because breweries started looking like regular bars.
And it's like such a new concept. Like, look at your parents. Do you think they ever went to a brewery? No.
No, but I would say now that they exist, if you were to walk into one, you should know, like, I'm not at a regular bar.
They think it's just a bar. They really don't know the difference. Anyone
Correct
over
me if
the
I'm
age of
wrong.
like 40.
Some breweries are selling regular domestic beers now, too.
Yeah, a lot of them
Like,
do
you
it.
can get
Oh,
Bud
really?
Lights at some of these breweries. Why am I having breweries?
Breweries.
I can't get it out. Breweries.
Yeah. Well, most of them, all the bigger ones now do like, they do a lot of bourbon. So they'll do like hard alcohols. They'll do wine and like mixed drinks and stuff. And then, yeah, you see some of them, especially beer bars. They all have like your normal Bud Light, Coors Light.
How do you
kinda
guys feel
things.
about that?
I don't like, if it's a real brewery, I don't think you should have other beer. I don't really see it though. I can't think of one that I saw like a Bud Light chilling at a brewery, but.
Well, Jay, think of the one next to Fenway.
Oh yeah, but that's like a
Cheeky
those-
Monkey.
yeah,
It's a
those
brewery.
are ones that are like restaurants that are like pretend breweries. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They make a couple beers,
Yep.
but they're a restaurant first. So I don't quite categorize it the same. I think it's weird when you go to a brewery and they have like a full bourbon section. And to me, that's weird because I feel like part of being a brewery is you're presenting your product that you make. You know what I mean? And that's what we're selling is our own product.
And a lot of people like a nice little sidecar, throw back some bourbon too while they're having a beer.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any of that, but what I've noticed a lot more of lately, and I'm sure this has always been a thing, but this is just me noticing, I've seen a lot more collaborations. Like every brewery we go to, it's, oh, this is our like 6 collaborations with 6 other things and all this.
Yeah,
other...
that's always, but you know what that is? That's like first just for
2020.
fun and it gets your name out.
Yeah.
Once you reach like a certain level of recognition, I mean, it's no different than like, listen, it's anything else, like having guests like we're doing right now. It's just Russ might post and some people who don't know us will see it. And then we plug him and maybe a couple people check out his stuff.
Oh my God, I love that show. The Brews Brothers.
But you know what I mean? So it's the same with like, a couple breweries. There are breweries that I first found out about because they collabed with the brewery in our area. So that's how I knew about them. And they're in like White Plains, New York. So I wouldn't have thought to check them out until they start doing stuff with other people.
A lot of bigger breweries too now have their own like distilleries, so they're making their own bourbon.
That's
and
been a
stuff.
thing.
None of them are very good, but it's fine.
We went to one recently that had its own seltzers, hop seltzers.
Everyone's doing that now because it's so easy.
At the new hip thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing too where you might want to take your girl and you like beer and she might not. But now if they offer seltzers and other things that aren't just beer, it helps. It's something they can drink.
I think that was always the like, oh, we have wine too. Was like, oh, you can bring your girlfriend now, and it's like, oh, the pandering.
again, if you're trying to go out with a bunch of your friends at once, you want to have something that's going to appeal to everybody because not all your friends are beer drinkers. You know what I mean? So like if you offer, oh, I can also get a wine or I can get a seltzer, like it makes it so the one person who doesn't want beer, it won't fight you on going there.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, those two girls leave because getting slammed by Adam for not having Stella and stuff. But now Will's yelling at him like, what are you doing? Like, we don't turn people away here. Like, you know, we're trying to make business. And he just doesn't get it because he's so involved in caring about the craft of it all that he's like, dude, did you not hear what they wanted? Like, he just doesn't get that it's a business. And even though you're proud of what you're making, you need to have, you know, customers.
He's kind of like the Pete of this show.
And he's and Will's trying to explain to him like, hey, beer is supposed to be about bringing people together. Like, this is what this place is meant to be. It's supposed to be a great hang for people.
He's also wrong. It's supposed to be about money.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the vibe of the place will dictate the places you want to go sometimes. Like, if you're deciding, not just breweries, but anywhere, if you're trying to, you know, one place versus another, if one bar has a way better atmosphere or it's a lot funner to be at, I mean, they all serve, like, bars serve the same shit, you know? So
Yeah.
if you have something, now with breweries, they get away with it because if your quality of beer is significantly better than everyone else, people are going to go to you. Like, that's just how that's going to go.
There's no like, oh, I'm not going there because of this or that. If they like the beer, people will go. But also, like, if you're a brewery that doesn't have the most incredible beer ever, like, you should have good vibes. Like, they're clearly struggling in this fake brewery. You should have good vibes to make people want to stay, not spit on the floor and tell them to get out because they like Bud Light. Boo-hoo.
Most of the busiest tap rooms you're ever going to walk in have the most mediocre beer, and they're just marketed and understand how to...
Or location. Location is huge, too. Every brewery in downtown is going to have a people there, even if the beer is horrible.
Every single one's going to smell the same, though.
Yeah.
That happens. And now these two are going back and forth, and they're still bickering, and it's just more about who went about learning their craft the right way. So where Adam was going to school and getting all these degrees, you had Will, who traveled and he learned overseas how to do stuff in Germany with like monks and stuff. It, like everything else, different philosophies.
I know we're only supposed to talk about the first episode.
Yeah.
But the
Don't
monks,
worry, we all do it.
the monks that come in later in the season, Flulaborg, he's in like the next couple episodes or whatever. He is hilarious. And he was the only thing that made me continue watching this show to the end.
He was the one who stuck around when the rest left again, right?
Yeah, he's the big muscular guy. He is hilarious. Even with this horrible writing, he was very funny.
You know what I thought was interesting is as they're arguing, Adam talks about how Will was partying too hard out there and was like throwing up all over himself and contracted super gonorrhea. This is the second show we've done recently that mentions super gonorrhea.
Is it a real thing?
It's a real thing.
Living Biblically was the other time it came up.
It is a real thing.
What makes it different than regular gonorrhea?
It's
super. It's like, it's legit like a tougher strain to beat and like the medicine doesn't like fight it off. Yeah. We had to not long, like a month or two ago, had to have a whole super gonorrhea talk.
It's like Superman. You need kryptonite.
And so you were able to drag your gonorrhea riddled member into a monastery to make beer, and you memorize these recipes. I did like that he got on him for that. He's like, you just memorized recipes from like all these monks. Like you didn't learn like the intricacies of it.
I like, he goes, you're a Xerox machine. And then the girl goes, what's a Xerox machine?
I'll chalk that one to not being stupid, but being generational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like we talked about, she's young.
So now we have another guy who walks in during this argument, and Will's like, look, I'm going to show you how this goes. And he's like, hey, welcome to Rodman's. What can I get you? And the guy's like, oh, I'll just have whatever he thinks best. And he gives him a beer. He's like, oh, this is actually really good. Oh, also, you're being served. You haven't paid the rent in 3 months. I almost felt bad. That guy seemed so nice. He betrayed him.
Everyone who serves is always like nice, and then he was nice even after the fact, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's true. That's the job. But yeah, he did serve him a Rodman Stiff Stout.
I really need to change.
And now that he's aware, yeah, he did say like, oh, I got to change the name of that.
Why would he name it Stiff Stout, though? He's like...
I will say, we've given him in the show shit so far. I really do like the main character. What the fuck's his name?
Will?
Yeah, but his real name.
Wilhelm.
Adam Eisenberg or Eisenberg.
Yeah, he was also It wasn't a big part of Orange is the New Black, but he was one of the guards in that.
Oh
but
shit, that is him.
I do like his presence. Like, I think he can be funny.
They sidebar, literally. They're at the side of the bar, and they're trying to plan how to impress the distributor who's coming in, because that's going to be the big thing that saves them financially, is if they get some distribution into other bars and stuff like that. While they're talking, the food truck rolls up, and it's drives recklessly onto the sidewalk, knocks a bunch of shit over, and that's when we meet the couple.
I hate this because what is their name? What are their names?
Elvis and Becky.
Elvis and Becky. Okay. I wonder if that's a Full House play, by the way, now that I think about it. Elvis and Becky. That'd be Uncle Jesse and Becky. But anyways, I loved this because it is a really cool way to get some more characters into a show about a brewery, because there's food trucks at every one of them, right? And I was like, this is interesting. This is cool. And they failed so hard by making these characters so fucking dumb and useless that they're just, every time they were on the screen, I was like, I sighed. Another fucking poop humor that they failed to make me laugh with.
I don't know. How are you making me hate poop humor?
I just, oh my God,
I think the
so
thing with
bad.
these two characters was it was dialed up too much. It's just a couple notches back. This type of character, this situation, it works.
If they were weirdly subtle,
yeah,
you have to be subtle. There's no subtlety to either of the characters. They're 100 all right off the
The
bat.
show is like a lesson in failed hyperbole.
Yeah.
So yeah, these two are running a food truck. They've only known each other for I don't know, less than a year, but
8 months, they say.
8 months. Yeah, they're attached to the hip. They somehow own this food truck together, though.
Can I say though, the food truck kids menu, and then they have all kids stuff.
Great idea.
That's awesome. That's so good.
I was gonna say, when they first rolled up, the first thing I did just to think of fun notes, because I didn't think it was gonna get addressed. I didn't remember this episode line for line 4 years later. So the first thing I did was I was pausing it and I was writing down some of the menu items. I'm oh, that's a weird list of shit. Apple slices, PB&J. But then later when they're this is what we do, everyone loves ordering off the kids menu and adults never are allowed to, so we have a kids menu for adults. I'm oh, that's actually smart.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you give me shit all the time for getting chicken fingers and mac and cheese.
I'm saying the thought train behind the food truck was smart. I still think it's funny that you eat like a child.
But Ferg, no one can give you shit if that's the only thing that's on the menu at the food truck.
Yeah.
True.
So you get all the chicken fingies you want.
I don't dislike chicken fingers. I make fun of you because you eat like a child.
No.
What did you have for dinner?
Cookies.
Hot dogs.
Macaroni and cheese. Damn it.
For those of you who haven't been listening to us for the full 3+ years, one thing that was noted, especially in our early episodes, now broken, but Ferg was a big fan of his hot dog toaster. Many dinners were cooked on that.
R.I.P.
Why don't you just get a new one?
He's not ready to have his heart broken.
I'm not
again.
ready to move on yet.
But yeah, these characters were super, super sexual. That's kind of, their shtick. They're making out constantly. They're talking about how they were hooking up on the drive over, talking about orgasms. It was just, I don't mind stuff like that. I'm all for
Orgasms?
adult humor. Hey, orgasms are cool. But no, it just, it didn't feel natural.
I will say I can't remember if it's this scene or the one after it that when they turn around and they don't have any pants
It's this
on.
scene.
It was the funniest part of the entire episode for me. I was dying laughing. It was the only thing that actually made me laugh out loud while I was watching.
The thing is, I keep comparing them to Taco. It's not just the sex stuff. It's that they're idiots, but they're very successful.
Yeah.
And that was something that always bothered me with Taco is he's too dumb to function, but he's incredibly successful in life. And that's what they are too.
That's a lot of real life dumb people.
True. If you walked up to a food truck and two people making out while they're handing you your food, you're never gonna take that food. No one's taking that food. But everyone does it this entire episode long. They're oh yeah, thanks.
Even when he's pooping.
Yeah, I know. It's what?
When they do the turning around and you see their butts,
I was dying.
it's funny, but
And then they held on it for way too long.
Well, here's what they did that was smart, though, because the girl who plays
hot.
Becky
The
is
hot
very
girl.
attractive.
Yeah.
Very attractive. You see her butt a little bit, but all the following butt shots, they kind of make sure that she's more covered and you're just seeing his ass the whole time.
Yeah.
Because, like,
It's funny.
just seeing her butt isn't funny. She's very attractive. So looking at her butt, like, there's not a lot of joke there.
Yeah.
Don't worry, ladies. He's very attractive too.
There you go.
We can't be sexist, Jason.
I'm not being sexist, but I think historically in television, it's funnier to see guy butt.
That's true.
Yeah, it's like how it's really funny to see dongs in movies now.
Yeah.
Like in comedy, I laugh every fucking time there's a dick on screen now.
It's funnier to call them dongs for some reason.
But yeah, that was definitely like some intentional camera work to be like, all right, after the reveal, we basically got to just show his butt. Because otherwise, there's going to be pervs looking at her butt the whole time, which is how I noticed.
Yeah.
You know who also could have played that role? Just the actor.
Rafi?
Rafi, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Because that level of extremity is where those characters are. They're very different characters, but that's where they fit in with like that, like removed from reality type of people.
Yeah. It also would have been funnier with Rafi because he probably would have had a really hairy ass.
But he was the one character that was like that in like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and, well, maybe not Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The League. He was like the over-the-top person.
That's him. He's like that in everything. He's Twisted
great.
Metal show. He's a priest in that, and he's still Rafi. Like, he acts the same way.
He always, also The Good Place. He's always a very extreme character. I love him in everything he's in, though. Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah, he's in Parks and Rec, too.
Jason something. Shit. Forget his last name. Starts M? Last name starts with an M?
What's his first name?
Jason? He's a Jason, right?
Momoa.
Yeah, Jason Momoa.
He's Aquaman. Yeah, he's great.
Jason Momoa and his big hairy ass.
Jason Mantzoukas.
Yeah, Mantzoukas.
No, he's hilarious. But not in this. But yeah, no, he definitely could have played Elvis for sure. So after that, we transition back into the bar, and that's when we see a man walking in, and it's Steve Ranazzisi from The League.
I'm practicing like stuff I'm gonna say on the show about how I hate these characters because they're taco. I'm like, this show is just The League, and who walks in next is fucking Kevin. I was like, are you kidding me? I didn't know he was even in this show, so it was
I forgot he was in it, and then he walked in, and I was like, oh, yeah.
So yeah, Steve Ranazzisi, who's comedian by trade, like there's a lot of stand-up now. From The League is probably where most people know him from. And then as touched on earlier, the big story that's synonymous with him now is after 9/11, he told a lot of people that he was in one of the towers when it hit and he escaped. And that wasn't true.
He did work for one of those big financial companies. I can't remember the name of it. If you said it, I would know it.
But he didn't work in there.
Yeah, no, and he did not work in that office. Did you ever hear his Howard Stern?
Yeah, it's incredibly uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable, but I mean, he basically what he says is, I just didn't correct somebody when people said that that's where I was. Like, because people knew I worked for this company. They said that I was there, and I just let it happen.
And it just becomes too late to say something after. And the best I can relate that to
is when you had Bruins season tickets and the guy behind you called you the wrong name for like 5 years and
other
you
people
didn't correct it.
There was a woman we used to work with who did the same thing. And if you don't catch it early, it's too late. And I was never good about, no, it's Jay. You know what I mean?
What did the Bruins guy call you, the guy who sat behind you?
I forget now, but he was wrong for years.
I went to a game with you and he was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? And you go, yeah, he thinks that's my name. I don't correct him. I was like, what the
That's
hell?
a plot line in Friends, by the way. Somebody does that to Chandler.
That's happening with multiple people. Like I said, there was a woman we used to work with, same thing. And if you don't catch it early, it's like after X amount of time, it's too late. And you have to like recognize in that moment, this is somebody I'm going to see again. You have to say something, but I'm always like,
You know what's totally different though? Someone calling you the wrong name and someone thinking you were at 9/11.
yes.
I would go, wait, no, I wasn't there. You were confused.
You know, it's funny because it's such a weird thing to lie about, and like,
so.
But
weird.
who did he piss off that like it's even weirder to try? I'm gonna disprove that you were at 9/11, and he did all the research and camera stuff.
There's a lot of people out there that are kind of obsessed with it. So.
What's funny too, though, is like it's not like that is what was his claim to fame, right? Like, it wasn't like that 9/11 stuff like skyrocketed him or anything. It was just a part of his thing that I think even after the league, like, was in some of his stand-up maybe or something.
I don't think it defined him, and I don't think he like really used it as his cash cow or anything. But nonetheless, that's a big story. And then when something like that gets exposed, it's going to look terrible, regardless of whether or not you made it your focal point or not, which actually makes it more unfortunate because he didn't need like that story. You know, he was doing fine without it. It just happened to be that thing lingering in the back that he wanted to go away.
Question: did that kill the league, that coming out, or was the
No.
league already on its deathbed?
They were close to each other, but the league was already dying, yeah.
But yeah, in this show he plays Cole, and Cole is the like craft beer distribution guy, and he's there to try out these beers and decide if it's like stuff that he wants to, you know, sell to all these bars and stuff like that. And it starts like with that really awkward handshaking thing when he's meeting both Will and Adam. It was like just uncomfortable.
Well, Adam made it uncomfortable. Will and him are just shaking hands normally, and then Adam just kind of like baseball huddle puts his hands on top of the handshake.
And then while Will's going to grab him some beers to try out, Adam goes and sits with him at the table. And now Adam's like interviewing Cole because to him it's like a two-way street. He's thinking like, we're picking our distributor. So he's asking him about like, what kind of places are you going to be serving our beer in? What kind of food do they offer? You know, how often do they clean their lines? And like, I get it. Honestly, like if you're passionate about what you're doing, you want to know that your stuff's being presented the right way. But what he doesn't understand is that Cole's like their only option. If there's no, you know, if Cole doesn't buy the beer, then they're up shit's creek.
So this part made me really angry at Adam. But then I've stopped to think, I'm like, why the fuck would Will leave Adam alone with this guy, knowing how he is?
He had to go get the beer. He
has employees for that.
He grabbed him a flight or something.
Yeah. They're trying to curate like a flight for him.
But also, you're worried about what food people are going to eat with your beer when you have a PB&J truck parked in front. Like, what?
And at the end of the day, like anything, right? Like beer, if you have quality, it's going to shine through no matter what. If you're good, then it doesn't matter. But when this interview's kind of rolling, like now Cole's kind of checked out, and Adam's telling him, like, you know what? I don't think this is a great fit. So Cole takes off. Will walks. He's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's trying to like stop him from leaving. And Adam's like, well, just, you know, we'll see if the next one's any better. He's like, there is no next one. Like, this was the guy. And now he's like trying to like chase him down the street and stop him. This was another situation where he seemed a little too oblivious to the situation that he was walking into.
Yeah.
But also, they're in like California, right? Where's St. Ives? California?
Yeah, because he makes a comment later, one day in California, and I'm already being cheerful or whatever he says.
There's no way somewhere in LA only has one beer distributor.
Sure. But that's again, like, that's the technicalities and you knowing more than you should watching a show.
It's a show that they made for people like me. If you were in like Iowa, sure, there's one beer distributor. Like, I get it, but it seemed far-fetched.
Even if you don't know about beer, you know California's huge, and like,
yeah,
it just set it somewhere else then.
I mean, yeah, so I'm just looking at it. Van Nuys is like right next to like Universal area there. It's like it's a busy part of like northern Los Angeles too. Like it's a little unbelievable.
Actually, I forgot to, before he left, there was that whole thing where he's pissed off and he's being like corrected and with the whole German thing, and he tells him like, I'm gonna order 9 kegs. He's like
that was funny too, actually.
Yeah, he was like panicking because like Will's panicking in this moment. It was like a lot of chaos that was happening at that time. But and again, this is just one of those situations where I can see both perspectives. Like I do understand wanting to present your product a certain way, but you know, the need to get your stuff out, and Adam walking in and knowing that this business is struggling and they need to get like this distribution, he's just so locked into his pride that it's like it's taking over everything else.
I'm a little confused though. He says I'm gonna take 9 kegs. Like, I get the joke is German for no and blah blah blah,
The joke is like he's supposed to say 0 kegs,
Yeah.
but it's
But
no.
later, I just mean that's even if it was the number 9, that's not a lot of kegs for them to get excited about. That's not. It's gonna save my business so I can pay the rent.
Later on, we can actually have the same exact conversation. So no, yeah, after he leaves, it's like they're all upset, obviously, and they're trying to amend this, and Sarah's trying to chase after him and find where he went, and the two guys are talking, and Will's like, you know what, this isn't working out, like, you need to get out of here, and Adam's like, you know what, fine, is about to take off, and then stops and just kind of puts his head against the window, and that's when we get the, like, I have nowhere else to go. He's like, well, what do you mean? Like, I thought you were killing it in Portland. And he's like, yeah, I had a falling out with the local brewers. He's like, isn't there like 100 of them? He's like, yeah, 84, but a lot of them are really bad.
Portland is a big brewery town, so it makes sense, but
I don't think this reveal should have come from him
no,
because
they
he
should
doesn't
have
become
found
a
out.
better person after. He should have found out via the girl. Like he throws him out, I got rid of him. What? He has nowhere
Yes.
else. He's home. Like that's why I called him. That's why I was trying to reunite.
Yeah,
you
his
guys.
pride
Like,
should have just had him walk out.
Again, it's the characters contradicting themselves. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like it's really basic things that shouldn't happen in TV, and they just do it.
And we see this whole thing where, like, why everyone in Portland kind of turned on him. He was at some, like, beer fest thing that he got a microphone and he got really honest with everybody about his disdain for IPAs. And he's saying that it's what people drink when they're out of good ideas or never had a good idea. And everyone's throwing cups at him. We flash back to, like, modern day, and he's explaining, so what I did was I made an IPA and he put a hallucinogen in it. So you drugged everybody at this festival?
But if you know Portland, people in Portland are probably cool with that. They'd be like, hell yeah, brother.
I thought this scene was a little funny when you're seeing everybody.
I thought it was funny too.
I like the dialogue here because because Will actually says, so you tried to drug a bunch of people, and Adam is like, no. See, that's the difference between you and me. I did it, which I thought was actually really funny.
Yeah, he said,
especially
you try, I
circumstantially.
succeed.
Yeah.
And then, like, when you're seeing the flashback and people are, like, all drugged up on this IPA, like, someone looks over at him and his head turns into a bison. And it's just, like, it's just really weird. But I thought this was actually shot pretty fun.
I love that whole, like, well, that's all going on. He's going, what do you think about IPAs now? It's like,
Yeah.
So because of that, he's no longer allowed to brew in Portland or be in Portland or Oregon as a whole.
he would
prob-
be in jail.
I was going to say, he'd probably be in jail.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious thing to do. You can't drug up 100 people or so. That's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Bill Cosby did it, and he's in jail.
He's
No,
not.
he's out.
He's been out for quite a while, actually.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He's living his life. Yeah.
He's laying low.
You telling me we're gonna get a Bill Cosby comeback soon?
A reboot?
He doesn't look like he has a lot of time left, but that's a story for another day.
One more hot dog might do the trick.
He lets him stay because he feels bad for the situation. So it cuts to them in the back later on, and you see Adam like sniffing hops. He's like, "Oh, Columbus," and his brother's like, "No, that's Simcoe from back home." Like, I'm pretty sure it's Columbus. Again, this is like, these are real hops. It was almost like they used AI to like write a script,
beer
like
joke.
write a League style episode of television with a lot of beer and poopy jokes in it.
Here you are, Brews Brothers, episode 1.
So now they're trying to work together again. And as we know, this wasn't something that worked out for them in the past, but now they're going to try to collaborate and for the greater good of the brewery. We also do find out that Cole agrees to come back, I guess. So they have a couple weeks until Cole returns, and they're going to try to present a new beer for him. So that's like the new objective, that they're going to make like this one great beer for Cole to try.
But God forbid they just make one beer. They're going to make 2.
Well, I mean, really, if we want to dissect it, he didn't try any of their beers. There's no need to make anything new.
And if you already have a bunch of beer that everyone's like, oh my God, this beer is so good.
Yeah, you could just give him those beers that you were going to give him originally, but it was like, oh no, you got to make him a special beer now.
Yeah.
What's the actual benefit? He's a nobody. We call this the Cole. I'm famous. Like, makes no sense.
Yeah, I'll come back, but only under the stipulation that you make a brand new beer for me, and the two of you need to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very believable. So they're in the back, and now he's like, all right, so I'm going to be crashing here. at this point, I don't think I realize that Will is living at this brewery.
It's not super obvious, yeah.
I thought maybe it's like a crash room. If you late night or something, you have like a place to stay. So Adam sees the bed. He's like, okay, cool. I'll crash here. He's like, oh, no, you can't stay there. Like, I jerk off there a lot. What?
So this show has now missed on
3.
Yeah, it's missed on 2 fart and poop jokes and a jerk off joke that didn't make Jay laugh either. So
Listen, we've established where my humor lies. And again, yeah, this is supposed to be up my alley.
Team Poop and Team Cum are united with this show's disdain.
You have a shirt that says "cum," so
I do.
and you wore it outside for people to see.
You know what though? He stopped wearing it.
I not stopped. I bought it for that one specific night because I knew it would bother the two of them, and I never wore it again. I bought
What
it
was
for
your
that one day.
benefit? We refused to hang out with you when you had that shirt on, and you covered it up.
Hold on. In fairness, we were at an event. Like it was like you couldn't refuse to be around me. The three of us sat together.
You put a hoodie. You put something on over.
You did. You put a hoodie on
Yeah,
after
we're
the
not,
parking
it
lot.
was a joke. It wasn't like I don't. In reality, I don't want to walk around with shirts that say "come" on them all the time. Like that, I do acknowledge that that's weird.
But you did buy the shirt that says "cum" on it, so
For the gag, yeah.
You wore it somewhere that you knew I would take a lot of pictures, and I can't show my family my pictures at WrestleMania because Jay's got the giant cum shirt that looks like Doom.
I will say,
Coom.
I think I sent you guys all a video. There's like, if you go on Amazon, there's a lot of like like welcome mats for like whale enthusiasts. So instead of it like saying like welcome for whale, it's like it says welcome. And I'm heavily thinking about buying one.
for whale enthusiasts.
Yeah.
What?
Don't do that to your mother.
There's like, she won't get it. If it's just that, it looks
Is it
like welcome.
spelled like
whale.
cum?
Yeah. And there's a lot of them.
Whale cum?
That's not for whale enthusiasts.
That's not for whale enthusiasts. That's for people like you, weirdos. like
There
you.
could be a crossover because whales like release like a gallon of cum.
I didn't know that.
I think it's a little more than a gallon.
It's
It's
more
a
than
lot.
a gallon.
It's a
but
lot.
It was a big number in my head at the time. Thanks for calling me out on it.
Yeah. If you step in the ocean, it's basically just whale cum.
There's only one appropriate thing to do at this point. Average amount of ejaculate
Not an
Oh,
incognito.
Oh no.
comes out of a whale.
Could have just searched how much does a whale cum.
Yeah, why did you word
I didn't
that?
want to write it that way. I wanted to be more appropriate because I'm an adult. A whale releases 40 gallons.
40 gallons. That's even higher than I was expecting.
That's a lot.
During mating. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, like, I don't know if it's in one. I don't want to get too into it. All right. Okay.
You know, normally I worry because, like, I'm like, oh, this kind of humor is going to push listeners away, but these are people that watch Brews Brothers, so I'm not too
Yeah.
worried.
They'll like the whale cum jokes.
Well, yeah, the cum talk doesn't stop here. Because after Will talks about how he likes to jerk off in that bed all the time, that's when Adam decides to just give him like a super detailed explanation of how he likes to get off and how he likes to edge himself for like a month at a time.
That's how the dude from American Pie American Pie does it. Finch in the second movie, he's
That's
like
right.
holding all of his
Yeah.
things, saving it for Stifler's mom.
It's popular. I gotta ask, I don't have a brother.
Me neither.
Jay and Nick, would you ever talk about something like
No.
this with your brother?
No.
Like, oh, I jerk off there a lot.
Nope.
I'll say, I mean, my brother hangs out in our friend group, right? And like we'll talk like this at times. I even feel kind of weird if we're in a group conversation that like he's in.
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
we're both adults, and it still
You're
seems
already
like
you're
weird
too
to me.
busy fighting with him, so there would never be a cum dog.
But yeah, I would never in a million years be like, hey, this is how I like to get off. Like that's just not. But you know what we've talked about before, and this is the reality. Not my family, but some families are just super close and open with
Yeah.
things. Like,
Yeah.
and that stuff always like weirds me out because I don't know. I was never that way with my family.
I was gonna say I'm the furthest thing from that.
We hate each other.
No, I'm just not open with that. Like I hate when we have dirty clips because I think my mom might see them on Facebook.
Uh-oh. All this welcome talk. Terry will not approve.
I'm going to get you guys a doormat too.
It's just gonna be there one day. Ferg's not gonna notice for a month.
Oh, welcome.
You'd have to move my haunted mansion one, and I'd be very upset.
So yeah, that whole conversation, I don't know, it just kind of ended and I was like, why did this happen at all? Just felt really forced. I didn't really understand the need to have this. This is how I like to get off conversation. I mean, I know they go back to it.
I was
There is
gonna say,
callbacks.
at this point, I realized the league comparison, and I go, they're setting up for him to just like either bust into the beer or like come randomly somewhere later, because that's just how their writing is. So I was expecting it this time. Doesn't make it acceptable, but that's this writing team.
So now, like, they're at a point where like, all right, well, we need to come up with these beers, and they're brainstorming and they're walking around, and it's kind of like, all right, well, you make yours, I make mine, and whoever wins wins. So they agree to go about it that way, and there's like they try going up the steps to the tanks, and at the same time, and they're wrestling around one another, and they start like kind of shoving each other, and it's just all that stuff's fine with me. That was all like very brotherly, but I don't know, it's just that visual gag that they were looking for there that was just it was like they don't know how to button up scenes sometimes, so they just decide to go with that little the nonverbal, so you have something to chuckle at.
Yeah, but it like added nothing to anything. It was just very like bland.
Because it just doesn't fit a lot. Like a lot of these pieces, like even explaining it at times, I find myself almost like losing my thought train because there's just things that are happening and they're not fluent with one another. It's just like a lot of things happening, yeah. And we get this almost like little montage-ish thing where we're flashing back and forth and we're seeing their different processes of making beers. So you have like Adam, who has it almost looks like a retro doctor's bag, like those leather bags, and he has all these like little ingredients in small jars, and he's smelling everything, and he's like trying to curate like this perfect like mixture of ingredients. And
not to nitpick, but he's never going to make any beer in that huge tank with a little tiny jar in a little tiny bag.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing. I'm like, you couldn't make a keg of beer with this.
No, that's that small. No, those samples are so small that you could like barely make a beer.
Oh.
You could never actually make like a batch. But like, let's just say they're samples, right, for the ingredients, whatever. But okay, we understand that he's like got his pretentious style, but then you're supposed to like think of Will as this guy who like traveled overseas and he learned from all these monks, and like he likes this traditional style of doing things, but he's not doing any of that. He's just being like some reckless idiot, and he's just making a mess everywhere and throwing hops in, and like it just like this doesn't coincide with anything about his style of how he would do beer.
He's like Kobeing hops towards the tanks. It's weird.
Yeah, it just doesn't. You want to see a contrast of the two styles, but this isn't, from what we were made to believe, his style of doing things. So it just doesn't work.
Maybe the super gonorrhea has affected his brain chemistry.
Or maybe that's how the monks did it. And
Maybe it was. Maybe that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe that
they
is
were
how
all
monks
drunk.
make
I
beer.
mean, get those monks drunk.
Fucking drunk monks.
And then like that, like I said, it was montagey, and then it ends with like Adam in bed just talking to his dick, like telling it how many more sleeps until it gets to orgasm, while Will stays on the ground nervously listening to it. Like it's just
Was this the part with Chewie in the tank?
no, because after that sleep, we get to the next day and they're back to work, and that's when you see the two side by side at the tanks. Will drops that like oar or whatever he has to like stir,
Paddle.
like that goes right into the tank. The paddle, yeah.
He calls it a bat, though, I think.
There was a bat found in the other one, so it's not uncommon for him to drop things in these tanks.
Yeah, but he says it's a bat, and then when he comes out, when Chewie comes out of it, he goes, "I found another bat."
Yeah.
Yeah, because Chewie pops out from like a third tank, and he's soaked, and he's just been swimming around in there, I guess, and
He goes, "Oh, I lost my wallet."
goes back in, yeah.
Maybe that would make the beer good. Maybe it's like a mahogany taste.
The wallet?
No, the bat.
I was going to say, why? Was his wallet made out of wood?
It's like the third show in a row I think you've done that somehow.
And because our guest, who watches no sitcoms, has no idea what that reference is from.
I watch some sitcoms.
That's from Full House.
There's not as many bad ones as you guys do.
How dare you? Full House is not a bad sitcom.
I've never seen Full House.
That's...
Wait, is that real?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
You've never seen an episode like by accident?
No, I had never seen, up until like a few years ago, I had never seen Full House or The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Friends.
What did you watch?
Just Seinfeld.
Seinfeld, reruns.
What's amazing to me is those are shows that are on TV constantly.
Yeah, but I had TiVo from the moment I could have TiVo. I wasn't watching anything I didn't need to watch.
But just like between being in break rooms or like in a waiting room somewhere, like those are the things that are on syndication constantly. They're always on TV.
Well, that's how I ended up finally seeing Fresh Prince. It was like on somewhere and I just was stuck and I watched a few episodes. It was funny.
Did you watch actual Fresh Prince or did you watch the weird reboot on Hulu?
Imagine if that's the Fresh Prince he saw, but he doesn't know the difference. Where's Will Smith?
No one was doing the Carlton.
The two brothers, again, are bickering. He throws, like, what are in those bubbles? Is it just cleaner? Just from cleaning the brewery?
So. Yeah.
Because he, like, blows bubbles at his face. He's like, oh, acid attack.
Oh, I thought that was just, like, beer foam or something.
So they continue to start wrestling and stuff after this. And you see the two of them on the ground. And Will calls for his dog to come and save him. So he says, Friar Lucas, attack. So he jumps on Adam, but just starts licking his neck, like, constantly. And the stimulation from having his neck licked by the dog makes him come.
All right, stop me if you heard this one already, but this is the most league joke of the entire episode.
Legit.
Yeah. The way he, like, handled it after, too, like, just the laying there and kind of, like, talking to himself. Like, it did have that vibe.
And not enough. They don't think it's weird enough. Like,
yeah.
It's a very strange thing, and they should all be very grossed out, and they're only a little grossed out.
It was super strange and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I get that we're projecting that he's been, like, holding it for so long, but to have the release because a dog licked you.
But he wasn't even that far in. He still had like 9 days to go.
It's established he goes 30.
Yeah. So
it's still like that's 3 weeks. Like, it's a while. I don't want to further elaborate.
I don't either. I was going to say something. I was like, no, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
I am exhausted of this subject with this episode.
a first.
I don't know. I just thought there were better ways that obviously they were going to set up for this joke at some point.
But why did it have to be the dog? That was the one good thing about the show, and they ruined it.
You know what's crazy is they wasted it with the dog, like you said, where a couple scenes later, they do the scene where he wants to bang food truck girl.
Yeah.
So the obvious joke is like he goes to hit on her and he comes. She does something and it makes him ejaculate.
Honestly, like there could have been a point where, to kind of skip ahead a little bit, the next time you see him, he's like going to that food truck and he's trying to like put the moves on Becky and she's like preoccupied making out with Elvis. If they had saved that and like while they were making out, like she like reached out back to grab something for him, but like grabbed his leg and like that made him go, like that makes more sense and it doesn't come off as fucking a dog.
It shouldn't be this easy to...
Yeah, it's so easy.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not writers, but these are 3 things we've talked about now that plussed this up just a little bit.
Yeah, I think like we're not only we not writers, but this is stuff that like I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much here. But
the point is we're not good at it, right?
But these are like, yeah, we're not writers, and these are just like on the fly thoughts. This isn't like pre-thought resolves for the situations. This is just talking out loud, and this stuff ties in and makes more sense. So like that's what's frustrating.
It makes me wonder how rushed these scripts are. Like I understand,
probably very rushed.
Right? Yeah. Like there's just maybe just too much pressure from networks like Netflix to like get these things out that the writers are just like, fine, fuck it, like send it out like this. Like
I bet someone wrote that joke with the dog licking him and they go, and we'll change this later. And then it never got changed.
Exactly what happens, I think. Yeah, unfortunately.
You said this was a pandemic show, right?
It came out in April, so it was made before the pandemic, but it released right in the heart of like everything being shut down.
So do you think they rushed to get it out without making the improve? I know Netflix
no,
always has
no,
been
it's already been
stuff,
done. For it to release in April.
They would have shot it like 6 months before that at least. So they weren't reshooting things.
I will say we're talking about this whole food truck scene, and we have that stuff where Becky is, Adam's trying to talk to Becky. But I thought one of the few things that really did make me like laugh in this episode was when Will went up to the food truck and he looks over and Elvis is using the toilet, but because of like the style of the food truck, it's just a toilet like 2 feet from the window and he's just sitting in this plain open view, and just the way it was shot, where it's the perspective of inside the food truck. So you see him sitting on the toilet and you see the big open window, like with him just looking in,
just
like
looking out the window while he poops. Yeah.
You hear that, Nick? Jay hated all the cum jokes and loved the poo joke.
Poop joke. All right.
Wow.
we don't know what he was doing on that toilet.
He was clearly pooping. He was sitting, and he's a man.
The man.
Because we all know women stand to poop.
Yeah.
I mean, men stand to pee. I'm
know
saying
what
we
you
know he
meant.
wasn't peeing.
Okay, we don't need to do this. So now we're getting back into the bar. Cole's returning. It's time to present to him like the new beers that were created, the 2 of them. So now what I didn't like was you have the shot of Will holding the 2 beers and like sliding them over. They looked identical.
Legit identical.
Like, couldn't you make 2 different color beers?
Like even slightly.
Slightly. All I wanted was slightly. Something to make me see that they're not the same beer.
They had to look identical because they switched them.
No, but that's not even how that was really. That's not how it was done.
But if they looked different, Adam would have known that he switched them again.
Here's where I thought they were going to go with this. And I remember thinking this the first time I saw it. I thought that they were going to, considering watching them make these beers the different ways that they made them, like Adam was really precise with his weird little box of stuff, and Will is just kind of like throwing shit wherever. I thought they were going to accidentally, because, of their passion for beer and the fact that they're brothers, they were going to accidentally make the same beer, like identical.
I thought they were going to have a Reese's moment and accidentally mix their beers, and that would make the perfect beer, because one's all concise and one's crazy, and then...
But instead, they peed on it. Like, literally, figuratively, they just pissed on... It's just...
Yeah, so to rewind it back,
Yeah.
Cole tries the 2 beers, tries one, it's all right, tries the second one, loves it. We find out the one he loves is Adam's beer. But no, to mirror what happened before, once again, Will subbed out Adam's beer with another one of his beers. So again, that makes you you were like, I knew I wanted you to win, so I put one of my beers in your place again. That's again not giving him a chance to win and making it so you have to win,
I'm glad he punched him.
Yeah. It's like, it's honestly a dickish move. And he mirrored it and did it again. And I'm like, I thought he's supposed to be the brother we like, but I don't agree with this move. And the fact that he did it again, older, is more upsetting.
No, but it's not like he's doing it so he wins. He's doing it so his brother can win. In his head, he's wrong. But in his head, his is better, and he thinks he'll beat his brother, and he knows his fragile ego can't take that. So he's trying to give his brother the win. It's a nice moment,
that's you
but it's
not
wrong.
Trusting your brother. That's you being so arrogant that you believe that yours is better regardless.
And both times he did it, he told him right away. So what the fuck are you even doing it for? Like, what?
Right.
Also, why did they set up the whole hallucinogenic thing in the beers earlier if he's going to pee in his beer now and not put... I thought, that's another thing I thought. I thought he was going to drug his beer. And that's why they showed it. Because every other joke, everything they've done earlier has paid off with that. So I thought that was the whole reason they did that joke. It was so he could drug him.
You could have had the callback of him looking up again and you see Adam with the bison head from like before. Like that could have worked.
No, here's what really bugs me about this. A few things bug me about it. Have we gotten into the resolve yet, Jay? Like what actually happened? Like that Adam pissed in the beer. And
so Adam peed in the beer, but if it was switched, that's where I'm confused.
Adam peed in which beer? His beer or Wilhelm's beer?
I thought he peed in Will's beer.
That's what I thought.
And
He
then
did.
Will's beer is the better one. So
That's number one that confused. That
the beer with his pee is the
so
better
when he
one.
switched the beers, he presented Adam's beer as his beer.
Yeah.
No, I think it was just 2 of Adam's beers. That way
that's
Adam...
what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, not 2 of Adam. I'm sorry,
2
it
of
was
Will's
2 of
beers.
Wilhelm's beers, so Will couldn't lose. So I'm guessing one had the pee in it, and the other one was just his beer normal.
Then how did you know to pee in the one that ended up your beer. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
And did he pee in the glass or did he pee in the entire beer?
He peed in the tank.
Okay, so that's my other thing. First of all,
wouldn't change the taste enough.
It would not change the taste of it that much. And the big conundrum is that at the end is, oh my God, the guy loves the beer. So now we have to add pee to the beer is like the thought process. Like, how do we remove the pee and have him still like it? You wouldn't fucking notice if there was 10 ounces less of something.
Also, in reality, the sale's already made. You could just change it a little, and he's not gonna. It's too late.
I feel like this is missing a hint of ammonia that it had before. It's like
we're also assuming that he peed in the tank. We don't know. Maybe he just peed in the glass.
That'd be a lot of pee.
It's a big plot hole. It really is. The fact that if they're both his, they'd both taste like pee. Like,
and Ferg, this also goes back to what you were saying earlier. That's why I said I want to get back to it. When he's first like, I love this beer. Oh my God, I want to order 10 kegs of it. And they're like, oh my God, like the brewery saved. This guy bought 10 kegs. That's nothing. That's legit nothing.
What's a keg go for now?
If you buy it, I mean, they probably get a discount because they're distributors. But if I bought a keg from a place, it's like $100.
Yeah.
There's a question I had though, actually. Can you buy kegs? Like if I wanted to go to like Night Shift and buy a keg of Sluice juice, could I do it?
Night Shift doesn't make Sluice juice, but yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Some breweries will do kegs if they're big enough. Will probably do kegs.
Most of them will. If they make enough beer that they can keg it and give it to you, yeah, usually they will.
With those like higher ABVs, like if a whole keg of that at a party is gonna go a long way. Like so.
Oh yeah.
That's not like the old days of us drinking beers that are legit half the percentage of the ones we drink now. So
the beer I drank today was 8.2%. One of these, and I'm like,
Yeah, I can see those eyelids sagging, Russ.
So first he says he's gonna buy 10, then gets excited. I'll take 20. So he's gonna get about $500, give or take.
I think maybe they were to play the devil's advocate here. Maybe they're just excited that they're getting into places.
Yeah, it's like the relationship is starting. I guess it gets the ball rolling. But yeah. By the way, because you mentioned your ABV, I finally looked at mine because this beer's not bad, but I was like, it's a little strong. 10.2. I did not realize that this was a triple. There's a heavier beer.
I'm over here drinking baby beer at 4.7.
Let me check mine. Just call me CM Punk.
No, Ferg, you forgot your Stein.
The episode ends with Cole still like, it's like you get him in the background of the shot. You have the two brothers talking like, oh no, now we have to make beer with piss in it. And then you just have Cole in the back like, I love it. Because he drank pee. I'm still having a hard time getting my head around how he knew to pee in the one that ends up winning, not knowing that was going to be the beer that was presented as his beer.
It had to have been he peed in the glass.
So he peed. No, so man, it's so weird to talk about this because we're trying to have an educated conversation about peeing in beer.
I know, but stupid.
So I get it. So
it is kind of paradoxical.
To those of you listening, I'm sorry, but I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. Adam and Will were both about to present a beer. Before it was presented, Adam peed in Will's beer to ruin it. Before that happens, Will doesn't know about that. He switches the beers to help his brother so he will win because Will's confident his beer is going to win, not knowing that there's pee in it. Just so happens that Cole enjoyed the pee in the beer. So he's drinking Will's beer with pee that was presented as Adam's beer and picked that one.
How is he helping his brother? That's where I'm lost.
Because again, like the first time they had the competition, he just believes he makes better beer.
Will believes he makes better beer.
Will presented his own beer as his brother's, so his brother would beat him.
But if that's his state of mind, then a swap wouldn't have made sense. Both would have had to have been Will's.
He just wants him to get the notoriety.
He gets the notoriety, but it's truly his beer that gets sold, and distributed.
Which doesn't work when he tells him about it 5 seconds after.
Yeah,
Stupid.
But that's the close of the episode. So
fuck this show.
This was tricky because as we talk about it, it's this weird. I don't want to say I hated the show. I didn't hate the show.
I hated the show, and I love beer. So,
but yeah, but what happens is, in a lot of the times when we cover like really bad shows, it's like fun to pick them apart.
Yeah,
and this was like the jokes were just awkward and it wasn't fun to pick them apart.
Yeah,
So it's
I
like,
took no joy in shitting on this show.
Yeah.
so it was like, so it puts you in like that weird predicament. So because of that, and because I don't think anyone has anything additional to say about the show, we'll get into the green light or cancel. I want to remind you guys that obviously a different situation. There's a fourth member today that's not normally part of the show, and we have 2 people missing. So there's always a chance for a tie in the situation. But if you go to S1E1 Pod, there will be a graphic that will have everybody's votes, and you'll know one way or another. But I kind of have a feeling that even with 2 people missing their votes, we're going to have a definitive answer.
I'm going to change my answer just to be chaotic.
Well,
No,
in the sake of fun and chaos, Ferg, why don't you start?
I was kidding about that. This is a cancel, but despite as much as we shit on this show, I struggled with that decision because I did see a chance of this show being better. I like the plot. I like the idea. I like the brothers hating each other and having to work together. But it's just this major plot hole at the end with the beer switch, which you shouldn't have to think that hard about something so stupid. Most of the jokes really didn't hit. It's just a bad beer version of the league in the late seasons, and the late seasons of the league are terrible. So hard cancel from me.
Nick.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Ferg with struggling with this because it's one of these shows you just like want to like it. The cast is good. Like I don't hate any of the actors here. Like I think they all did a really good job as far as that goes. It goes back to the writing, like we've gone back to 1,000 times with bad shows. It's just the writing. I remember, like I said, I'd seen this before years ago. I watched the pilot, and I think I ended up watching a few episodes. I didn't mind it, but this time, when you're, being a little more critical of it, yeah, there's a lot wrong with it, and it sucks because it seems like a show that could have potential given the right writing, and it's just not there. Unfortunately, I understand why. In a time when all people had was watching television, that this show still failed. And it's for a reason. It's unfortunate. Can't win them all, though. So, yeah, it is a cancel for me.
Russ.
As someone who loves beer, like, has so much, like, I'm staring at racks of beer in my basement. I mean, I love all types of beer. It scratches a nice itch of, like, you don't see jokes about beer, like, the beer culture on TV or in shows like this show had. But even that is not enough to save it for me. Like, it would be so nice if it had all those things about beer that I love and that, like, feel so special to me as part of, like, a very small community of people that are, deep into beer. So I wish I liked it, but I don't like it. The jokes didn't land anywhere near funny enough for me. That being said, I did watch the rest of the series, but it was like, because it was April 2020 and I was literally laying in bed all day every day with nothing else to do. And I'm like, oh, show about beer. Great. But yeah, aside from the niche culture, niche culture, aside from the niche culture jokes that like I get and probably a lot of people don't, yeah, I would cancel this show for sure.
Listen, I'm not doing anything different than the rest of you guys. For me, it's also a cancel. Yeah, like you, I was super excited when I heard that the show is being made. Like I said at the top of the episode, I was like, oh, all right, so we have ties into the league and it's about craft beer and it's like perfect. This is like right up my alley. And then it just didn't hit. And I did watch the rest of the show and I do think it gets a little bit better than this. And I didn't hate this episode. And maybe part of it is like, I just wanted it to be so much better that I was a little disappointed. And we've talked about expectations before and how that can kind of sour you on something. But a lot of these jokes were just like super forced. And it was a lot of like dirty humor just for the sake of it. And like, I'm all about dirty humor. We've talked about that. Anyone who listens to the show knows like we, have off-color humor. But when it's just there for the sake of being there, it feels cheap and it feels childish. And I just didn't think a lot of these jokes landed. And this is another one of those situations where minor things could fix it. Minor things like, you have someone comb over that script a little bit more. We dial down the characters a little bit. Like the premise of the show is there. And I do think on a beer standpoint, they were able to make fun of the cringy parts of beer culture but still in a way kind of respected it and made it so that people who do enjoy beer would like get these jokes and like have fun with it. So they kind of landed it there, but as a whole, the show just wasn't what I wanted it to be. It does get better if you watch the whole season, but it's never anything that special. And like Russ said, maybe had it not come out in April 2020, I don't know how many people would have watched it. I don't know how many people did watch it. For a show to just like fail and came out at a time where everyone was watching TV, like that, it says a lot. So I'm sorry to Brews Brothers, but you do not live on to see episode 2 with us. Before I close out, Russ, thank you for joining. Are there things you would like to plug?
No, not really. But if you want to follow me, at a beer has no name. That's cool.
Okay. Well, yeah, lively plug
That'd
on
be a
Russ's
plug.
part.
He also has a band.
Yeah, I have a band too. If you like music and stuff, at Kid Disaster.
I hate music.
So yeah, go check them out. Kid Disaster
Awesome.
is the band, and then A Beer Has No Name on Instagram. But thank you guys for listening. Again, sorry to Brews Brothers, but that's it for you guys. I want to remind everyone to go to s1e1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to our social medias and especially our merch. Please go check that out. We don't make a lot per sale, but everything helps. So a lot of you guys have bought things, and we've seen some pictures of you guys wearing our shirts, and it honestly does mean a lot. So it helps us, and it's just cool to see the support. It's just something that when you start it, you don't really expect like a fandom to be built and for people to be like passionate about something that you do with your buddies on the side. So thank you to anyone who has bought anything, and again, there is a link available if anyone wants anything. But yeah, that's all the time we have for this week. We'll catch you again next week with another new episode. But until then, thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Rod Guzzler.